Hi, I'm Mark Clugwell. Welcome to the Photographer Academy, and we're talking boudoir again. In this film today, we're looking at the sheer nightgown as a part of our Dressing for Success series, where we can kind of look at what the client can bring with them or what we can buy in studio to allow our boudoir photography to have a slightly different edge at times. The sheer nightgown, basically, it's a great transition as well to kind of move from lingerie to perhaps semi-nudity. But it's a really kind of a sexy part of the everyday wardrobe to kind of bring that little bit more of a sensuality, kind of the edge. If we're kind of really looking at the nightgown, or it could even be a beach robe, one sheer kind of level is going to be enough to kind of disguise majority of skin, but it's also going to allow some detail to pass through as far as the knicker or the bra and so on. Kind of a couple of things that we're looking at today in this session: the lighting, posing to do with it, and basically exposure as well. One of the key things I think when you start to think about sheer and kind of sensuality is the likes of perhaps the Lady Diana kind of image, where we're seeing through the leg where she walks towards. So this is before she was engaged to the likes of Prince Charles at the time, many moons ago. But there was some big press images that kind of circulated around the world, and because the sun was coming in from behind and she didn't have a petticoat on, just a kind of a white dress as it were, and the sun was so strong that it showed through the actual leg, and obviously that kind of was a little bit revealing and kind of titillation and so on with it. But in that way, if we want to emphasize on that more, we can start to look at the likes of this session that we did with our Molly. This is just before she stopped modeling for a while because she was going to have a baby. But we kind of looked at how the likes of a night dress could actually be really used as a big part of a boudoir shoot. And we didn't just do the Dressing for Success, but we actually went through a whole shoot. Which is available actually on the Photographer Academy, by the way. But basically, in the kind of the main elements we're trying to kind of understand is the light, as a rule, is best to come from behind. So in this case, I was just using a big pop-up softbox. It's known as a highlight. And pretty much most of the photographs we're going to be looking at today and you're going to be seeing shot are going to be based around the highlight coming in from behind. Depends on the positioning of camera and subject, of course, and how close the subject is to the light source. You're going to get different kind of effects, obviously. One of the great things about the highlight, it's just like a big window, so a sun-drenched window that you've put netting in front of, or a kind of diffusion screen. And by doing that, I can really get the subject almost on or right next to the light source, and we can get some lovely wraparound light. So the image on the left-hand side, you can see the edges of the softbox itself, so it's quite large, 8x7 in size is the one that we use. But then you can see the image on the right hand side with her almost on the softbox. Not only is it sheer, but the kind of the light coming through wraps around as well. When we're exposing for the kind of the image as a rule, you'll know that we usually kind of measure from the face to the light source. But when we want a sheer see-through effect, we tend to work with an overexposure. If you're going to shoot sheer on a darker background, then perhaps in addition to just kind of running the usual kind of softbox light, you think about putting a background light behind the subject. By doing that, of course, as you can see here, it starts to actually shine through, and then you can get a very similar effect with a dark background, if not perhaps a more dramatic effect. Personally, I prefer the higher key, the lighter and whiter. Remember, higher key refers to the lighter shades of grey to white, and then the lower key refers to the shades of grey to black. In this case, it's a higher key because obviously we're working in whites and lights. So when we've got the subject against the actual background, the exposure is usually going to be overexposed by around about a stop. And this will allow some of the bleach effect to kind of come through and just kind of burning out detail with it. Usually the detail that's in the shade, like we're seeing here on the leg and the knicker line visible to camera, we've got detail fully there because obviously that is being protected by the body. But pretty much when the light is coming through the sheerness, it allows the shape of the bust and the body to actually come through, but it also shows that there is material there instead of just actually the naked body. So just by bringing the shape of the body through, you can see here that it's even good for like a maternity kind of image. Molly's got a long way to go before she was having the baby anyway. This was the kind of one of the last shoots that she was doing before she was having the baby. But basically, it's also a great way to do maternity images. I really like the sheer approach because it kind of reminds me of a little bit more of a voyeuristic kind of thing, or what is true boudoir, the butler through the keyhole kind of observation. Voyeurism. And when you're doing that combined with a faceless kind of image, you can bring in some kind of sensuality or heighten the sensuality of the animation of the pose and things. I would say that though for a body shape that needs a lot more disguise, that you would go for perhaps more control with the likes of a basque or a corset, even bra, to control the body shape in any way, or you even use a thicker kind of element. But if you have a client who's willing to go semi kind of transparent nude, implied topless, implied nude, I think you can't go wrong with actually the nightgown as well with it and things. Really, you can get some really, really great images. And even just if you work with the client rotating themselves in a slight kind of movement in a clockwise or anti-clockwise circle, as you slightly change the pose, opening the legs more when their back is to us or their front is to us, and closing the legs more in the more classic kind of boudoir when they're actually to the sides to actually sculpt the body shape. The reason that I'm saying about the legs open while their kind of back is to us and they're forward to us is so we can have that sheer kind of shooting through effect, like I mentioned about the Princess Diana look and things. Really, it really does make a kind of a sensual boudoir kind of leap upwards. So if you're trying to bring a little bit more of a sensual edge to your boudoir photography and you're not quite sure how, or your client needs a little bit more of a confidence boost by hiding more of their body before they kind of relax a little bit more, then I don't think that you can go wrong with actually the sheer gown, as it were. I mentioned as well about beach robes. You'll probably find spring, summer that you can pretty much walk into any of the fashion shops and pretty much pick up these kind of things. If you're looking for something a little bit fuller, then look at more of a maternity range as well, if you prefer something a little bit more kind of baggy than clingy, as it were. Obviously, we're used to the likes of baby dolls or a kind of a sheer petticoat, and those will work as well, but we're looking for something a little less clingy and a lot more see-through, and as I said, I tend to actually work on the whites and lights and so on with it. But I hope this kind of has inspired you to kind of get out there and at least show some clients some images, whether it's from the likes of Pinterest or Google, show them this bit of a video, but just to give them an idea of what you're trying to achieve, and obviously use some of these poses that we're doing as a kind of a stepping stone for you. So as far as the lighting is concerned, you're better to actually work from the light coming in from behind, but you can work it from the side. If you're looking for that sheer effect though, you really do need to light from behind. As far as the pose is concerned, change the pose specifically when their back is to us or their front is to us, so you can actually have the sheer coming through the leg. And then as far as the exposure is concerned, overexpose the image by around about a stop, and you'll find you'll get this lovely wraparound light. Hope you enjoy this film. See you next time.